Hi everybody, I'm Wendy and I am the local loveologist here at Good Clean Love, and we get questions every week from people who read our blogs and watch the videos and listen to our radio shows at theopeningdoor.com. And we got this very touching question from a young man who describes his life. And he says that he and his girlfriend are both in their mid-20s, living together for 3 years, essentially married. They're financially dependent on each other. They're very young, but there's a lot of things that aren't working in their relationships, which I think actually is a fair description of most people in their 20s who are having long-term relationships. You know, this is the time in life where we're really just learning to have relationships. And many of us have not grown up around relationships that are models that we want to emulate. And in fact, this is the thing that keeps people from even getting into relationships and choosing hooking up and other kinds of relating, because they're afraid that they don't want to create the kind of relationship that they've seen in the past. Anyway, so this couple, he goes on to say that they don't have sexual intercourse because she has some kind of medical problem, and that he feels a lot of times that she's wanting him to parent her as well as be her lover. And he's supporting them financially, and they have different interests, but they're also very intimate and very close and have been close for a long time. So he says, as you can probably tell, a big part of me feels stuck and unhappy. I feel yearning for a partner with more energy, someone who gives me more space. I want more sexual adventure. But the other part of my inexperience is deep fear of the unknown. I feel love for this girl. We both do give each other so much. We do make each other laugh a lot. I want to know if there's something out there that will make me feel free rather than stuck. But I'm afraid that I'll discover that those feelings of stuckness are in me, and I've traded the love of my life for loneliness and hardship. So my friends say, you're only young once, and they advise me to leave slowly and gently, that I need to learn more about myself and the world of love before I choose to spend my life with someone. But something keeps saying to me, can't you learn what you need to learn from inside this relationship? You've spent your whole life flitting from one thing to the next. Can't you hold on to something? I'm also totally overwhelmed by the thought of starting from scratch alone, untangling our life together. I've essentially never lived alone in the grown-up world. So I know there's no solution to this, but I want to know what you would say. Well, there's a whole tangle of issues in here, and really, really good questions. On the one hand, what my husband would say, at least in part to a question like this, is, are you looking at what there is to stay for or what's broken? So generally speaking, not just in your relationship, but in all relationships, when we look for what there is to stay for, we usually find what it is that can grow into more love. That said, you are both very young and both very inexperienced and both walking into this relationship with a lot of baggage from your past, including fears of being alone and, all the ways that you really connect and become really close to somebody in your first relationship. To actually sort of put sexuality off the table because of a medical condition is not really fair, and it's not just, and it's not loving. There's so many different ways you can kind of move towards your sexuality and be curious and explore what it means to be sexual with somebody. That doesn't necessarily include intercourse, but I could pretty much guarantee that you're not going to be happy for a lifetime that you can never have intercourse, because that's something you're trying to learn about. So, doing something to get medical care or other things so that she can discover that part of her life is something that I would totally recommend. And it's not a small thing to dismiss, oh, I'll just never have intercourse for the rest of my life if I stay with this woman. It's very bad. I would never give that advice. That said, there might be something you can do with it. Facing a life alone is a huge thing. But ultimately, I think when you weigh out whether to stay or go in a relationship, At the beginning, and I remember at the beginning of my own marriage, it was hard to tell where I stopped and he started and vice versa. But, a relationship that lasts isn't really two people making one whole. It's two whole people making a container that can hold both of them and give them room to become their best selves. So that's the kind of relationship that can last. And so, if that means that you have to go off by yourself to find what it is to be whole, for some people that's what it is. I actually was able to do it within the context of my own relationship, but it was hard, it was painful, it was challenging, and ultimately it did require us to separate in many ways for some periods of time. So I hope that's helpful. I feel like your questions are all really, really the right important questions to ask. And I think if you trust your heart, because we all actually have a voice inside of us, if we listen closely, that will guide us. So here is my deepest aspiration for you, to get quiet and listen to that voice inside of you. And I think you'll be surprised that you know more of what you need than you know when you wrote me this question. So I wish you the very best. Wish you courage, which is the height of what it is to love ourselves, and trust love as your compass. Take care. Bye.